My Mill's ex-boss decided to make her funeral all about him. My MIL passed last Christmas Eve. Sadly, she had been battling cancer and was in remission. She took a fall and broke her pelvis. She had an internal bleed and the doctors didn't notice it, so that's how she passed. It was so sudden, and when we got the news, my husband and I were scrambling to find our way up there because we lived across the country and our only vehicle was a super old pickup that shit itself just before this happened. Because of this, we weren't able to be a part of the funeral planning but thankfully made it up there the day before with the help of his best friend. The viewing and the funeral were the same day, so as we walked into the funeral home, my husband noticed her ex-boss. We'll call him Greg. 'Cause that's his name. IDGAF if he see this. Hi, Greg. You're a giant dick. Some info about her ex-boss. He was a giant piece of shit. She worked with him for the county and paid bills for different social service organizations and was the go-between for CPS. This man was so useless and she hated him with a passion. He would call her his work wife, much to her chagrin, and joke that he couldn't do anything without her. And he couldn't. She was doing both her and his job. She even built the database that the entire county uses to track all of the money spent on the various bills. Side note from my husband, yet she couldn't work the remote. Love you, Mom, but you couldn't face with tears of joy. After she left, the secretary that replaced her ended up getting Greg fired because she quickly found out that he couldn't do his job because my mother-in-law had been doing it for him. She worked for him during the aughts when my husband was in high school. This is important. During this time her husband, my Fael, was diagnosed with cancer. He battled it for years but eventually he passed away from it in January 2011. The only reason my mother-in-law put up with his shit and the job was because she needed the health insurance for her husband's chemo since he couldn't work. Which Greg took full advantage of because he knew she couldn't afford to lose her job. During the times he fought and she had to take off of work to care for him, her boss would send her home with work because he couldn't do any of it himself. Her husband was dying from cancer and he was still sucking every last drop of work out of her he could. He was and is still a very shitty person. So fast forward to the funeral. She hadn't worked for him in, like, 6 years and to see him there was just a slap to the face. Now, I'm not sure how funeral processions work in other countries, but in the States, there is a very specific order. First, obviously is the hearse. And after that is the closest living relatives. Since my husband was an only child and his father had already passed, he was the closest living relative. Now, she did have 3 brothers so they followed in the car behind ours. Then her cousin, then everyone else. As we are all making our way to the cemetery, I see someone cut in front of her brothers. I turn around and lo and behold. It's her ex-boss. I was pissed. He then tried to cut in front of us. Like, who TF does this? You are her ex-boss that she hated. My husband and her brothers were her family. And I thought it couldn't get worse, but it did. So since we couldn't make it up there until the day before the funeral, we didn't have a say in the preacher who did her eulogy. He was shit. He stumbled on his words, he quarter-assed it, and obviously didn't know anything about her. It was so awkward. But after he spoke, before my husband gets a chance to stand up and speak about her, her ex-boss gets up. He starts talking about Maria and all the work that she did working for him and how she did everything and she was his work wife. Gag. And he talked at length about his work with the county and how they helped the community and just kept patting himself on the back. But the motherfucking icing on the shit cake was he said that her work for him, when my husband was a teenager, directly inspired her to adopt my husband from Paraguay when he was a baby. Like. You're so self-absorbed that you think that what you do is so important that it inspired her to adopt 15 years earlier? I was squeezing my husband's hand so hard during all this that I was about to break it. We didn't say anything out of respect for his mom. But this is why I say when I die, please tell everyone I hate off. Face with tears of joy let them know exactly how I felt and even throw hands. IDGAF.